Make sure to catch me at twitch.tv/GCFallenAngel this Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for Trials of Osiris. But anyways, let's roll the intro. What is up, boys and girls? It's GC Fallen Angel here, or Jack, whatever you prefer to call me. And today we're going to give my genuine thoughts on the Stasis supers, now that I've had about a week and a half to mess around with Behemoth and the Revenant or Silence and Squall. Now, my only gripe with the Shadebinder super, and it will not be featured in this game because I just recently unlocked it, but I had no gameplay for it. My only gripe with it is the Shadebinder melee, which I think should be changed to be the exact same as the shurikens for the Revenant super, which means one slows and then the second melee for the Warlock freezes instead of insta-freezes. But that's my only gripe with that, and if you have any other opinions with the Shadebinder super, please leave a comment below, and I would love to start a conversation. But let's start with the Behemoth Titan. My personal opinion with the Behemoth Titan is I want to talk about the super itself to start off with. The super itself has a very delayed, it's very delayed between sequences of actions that you do with the super. When you pop that super, it's fine, but when you slam, there's like a second delay before you can shoulder charge or before you can slide, and I don't really understand that delay. It makes the super very wonky and weird to use, and luckily, the freezing makes up for the fact that you don't lose your super battles, but it can be very difficult. And sometimes I would say it's pretty easy to shut down a Behemoth Titan that doesn't have 40 brain cells because of how weird and wonky the super movement is. With the shoulder charge, it has a very hard time connecting and will just go straight past enemies. And I don't like that, especially with the just going straight past enemies, that connection, and I know the longer you hold it down, the longer it shoulder charges. And I still find it very wonky and very hard to hit targets because I don't know if it's just the lack of, aim assist or lock on, and maybe it actually is Bungie is promoting good movement, but especially with the controller, and controller is my main use, even with paddles and me having that same as PC movement but lack of sensitivity, I don't necessarily like it. And that's, I think, sort of an issue. That's my main issue with the super itself. And when we get to the abilities and passive play of the Behemoth Titan, even the normal shoulder charge has a really hard lack and pretty big lack of shoulder charge turning and capability. Now, do I personally think it's a little bit hilarious when you connect your shoulder charge, you launch people flying into walls? That's cool, but it's a shoulder charge ability. And especially if that shoulder charge is being taken away, it should be the exact same as every other shoulder charge. That should be a one-hit kill shoulder charge. And if not, it should just slow enemies down, similar to something like the Hunter Shuriken or the Hunter Dodge itself. And otherwise, I just don't really like the shoulder charge there. Is it overpowered? No. Is there a skill gap to it? Yes. Is the hit registration wonky? Not really, but what I do like is you can go from a standing still position to an instantly into a shoulder charge. For example, when you shotgun somebody, you could melee or you could insta shoulder charge even after not moving, which means it can be really good to just throw people off because they don't expect you to get the kill. I have a couple of instances where this happened in a private match and it was quite hilarious to watch. Okay, and let's talk about the Titan Slide Cryoclasm. Awesome. Cryoclasm. A really good ability and really good prepared for somebody like me who's a slide sniper or somebody who wants to be a shotgun ape. You can see I'm doing quotations, but you can't see. And that's really, really good. Cryoclasm, sliding at targets, getting that increased slide. It gives Titans that mobility that everyone's been lacking. It makes up for the fact that they don't need Twilight Garrison. It gives them that movement speed. So that's really good to see. Okay, let's move on to the Titan sliding through the ice wall. That's a really cool ability, being able to freeze targets and slide through the ice wall to cause damage. That's something really awesome to see. Throwing an ice wall down, sliding through them, causing damage. You can slide through other people's crystals too, which can make for some very funny moments. Again, I did this in some quick play games. Again, you can catch me at twitch.tv/GCFallenAngel if you want to go and see those. But Basically, as soon as my teammates got close to an enemy ice wall, I slid through it and killed my teammates. It made for some pretty fun gameplay. I would recommend trolling, but that ability itself is really interesting and really cool to see. So that's something I like and something I think that's actually pretty balanced because it requires some actual, like knowledge, map awareness, and it combines two abilities together to create some sort of a skill gap to use that ability. Not just anybody can do that. You can't just throw the ice wall down and slide through it. Because again, people that have brain cells will know as soon as that wall comes down, they know immediately it's if they're not frozen, they know to back off. And especially as a hunter, it's very easy to just make backwards movement, to stop your momentum and go the other direction instantaneously. So it can be good, but it also means people that have brain cells that are paying attention will not also be absolutely decimated by this ability. Okay, that's my genuine thoughts on Titan. To wrap it up, I think the Titan Revenant Super is actually quite overall balanced. There's a delay between abilities when you're in the actual Behemoth, or sorry, not the Titan Revenant, but the Behemoth Super itself. There's delay between the abilities. The shoulder charge tracking is relatively, just relatively bad. And otherwise, there's a skill gap when using the ice. Otherwise, there's a skill gap with using cryoclasm paired with snipers or even shotguns. There's a skill gap with using the ice wall and sliding through it because it actually requires people to not be paying attention or to really catch your enemy off guard in order to maximize that. Now, moving on to Revenant. Silence and Squall. Oh boy, I do have a lot to say about this. I do think this super is actually really well balanced. The super itself, Silence and Squall. Throw one pick to freeze, throw the other to create a tornado. Now, I'm not sure if the first pick tells you where that tornado goes or how the tornado tracking works itself. Is it random? I think it kind of is, because it doesn't seem to go towards people. It just seems to go wherever it feels. Maybe if someone's in a certain proximity, then it will head towards, but otherwise, I think the super is quite balanced. It's not broken because it's a shutdown. It's not, just like a shade binder equivalent where it's like, bro, you frozen, you're dead. You have a little bit of a chance to get out of it depending on how well that person throws it. Now, if the first pick is thrown directly at you, and I think you can't be in a super. If you're in a super, you can survive. But if the pick is directly thrown at you, you are instantly dead. Whether it be the first one or the second one, you will die instantly on direct impact. But how that super is when people relatively near each other, you want to throw that first pick down to freeze. And then what you want to do is throw the second pick down to create a tornado. And then you can just go after the frozen target, because 95% of the time, you're not getting out of that. Unless you're on the very edge and you have something like Icarus Dash once you're instantly unfrozen to get out of that situation. It's equivalent to something like a dust field grenade, but much, much more deadly. And it's more like a much better version of Blade Barrage with a sort of skill gap in between, where it's, if you don't know what you're doing with that super, people are gonna murder you. And it's a super, if you can get past that first pick, you can shut down that super because they are stuck in one place. I've had a couple of instances where I've just sniped out or outright just shotgun meleeed a Revenant right out of their super pop. And there's been a couple of instances where I've died after throwing one pick. Because, if you're getting team shot, you're in a very, very vulnerable position. So it's very easy to trade or shut down the super, but if you get it off, it can be very rewarding if you know what you're doing. So that's something I love to see. Now, let's move on to the actual passive gameplay, neutral game of the Revenant / Silence and Squall super. Let's talk about the double shurikens and the fragment that allows you to, or the aspect that allows you to dodge and slow. Compare this with the Shatter Dive with the Glacier Grenade. It can be something that can create some really cool plays and something that creates an actual skill gap. With the Shatter Dive, you can throw an ice wall grenade down. If you're relatively close to a target, or a target happens to walk near, slam down, and you can easily end your target's life. Because there's a radius that you can see around it, and if they're caught in that radius, they are dead. And the actual Shadow Dive itself allows you to, if you're in a very bad situation, especially with something like Strafe Jump, you're jumping in the air to hit a headshot, and you see a sniper, you can Shadow Dive to create something similar to the Phoenix Dive, but doesn't give you health back, but allows you to kind of correct your bad judgment of movement, or if you're stuck in the air and you just need to get on the ground. But it will leave you vulnerable to for a very split second when hitting the ground when using shatter dive, so you can get shotgunned out. Now let's talk about the shurikens paired with something like the glacier grenade or something like the what's it called? Glacier grenade or something like the dust field grenade with the shuriken. Throwing a dust field grenade and then shurikening somebody will insta freeze, and they do ricochet. If you catch two, they can double. And the dust field grenade is very good for crowd control, especially paired with the shuriken for shutdown. It's also very similar to something when using the Am I like lagging all day? Like I'm so. Have I really just been lagging this whole time? When using the hunter dodge paired with the shuriken, you dodge, throw, frozen, shut down. It can be really good if you have a skill gap. And a lot of times I have been dodged. The dodge has been thrown at me, but I have gotten out of those sort of situations. So that can be countered if they're not absolutely on top of their A game. And a lot of times I've gotten shurikens thrown at me, but if you were always ready to aim at your target with a shotgun, you can trade or sometimes outright shut down that person that's pushing you. You just have to be ready to pre-fire that shotgun like crazy. But to wrap up my thoughts on the Revenant class, very good balance, a lot of options for really good plays, tactics, gameplay, and creates a pretty huge skill gap. But once I get some more gameplay on the Shame Binder, I'll let you all know. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!